evening. I'm Alan Kraszewski.
And I'm Cheryl Burton. In tonight for Kathy Brock. There is a call from Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan to get federal help to investigate Chicago Police Department practices.
We do have a series of live reports for you on McCarthy's firing and also what community leaders and neighborhood activists are calling for next. Let's start with Eyewitness News reporter Sarah Schulte at police headquarters tonight. Sarah?
Well, Alan, late this afternoon, Lisa Madigan did ask the Justice Department Civil Rights Division to investigate the Chicago Police Department. Ron Emanuel says that firing Garry McCarthy is the first step in restoring public trust.
This morning, I formally asked for his resignation.
Reacting to a growing chorus of calls for Garry McCarthy to resign, Mayor Emanuel's fierce loyalty to his police superintendent finally wore thin.
I have a lot of loyalty to what he's done and him, but I have a bigger loyalty to the city of Chicago, its future, and the strength of that future.
The mayor made his announcement just a few hours after McCarthy told ABC7's Jessica D'Onofrio that he had no plans of stepping down.
Not going to give up on the Chicago Police Department, not going to give up on the Chicago community. I love this city. I'm not going anywhere. Even if I leave this job, I'm staying in Chicago.
Emanuel says giving up on McCarthy wasn't about his performance. Rather, it was about the fact that Chicago's top cop had become a distraction following the release of the Laquan McDonald dashcam videotape last week. The mayor hopes removing McCarthy is the first step in rebuilding trust between the police department and the community.
Even if it wasn't McCarthy, there's still a culture and there's a challenge in the department that has to be dealt with.
Many say there's a long way to go, including holding the mayor accountable for the handling of the McDonald case.
I take responsibility, and none of us are above it.
The mayor had plans to fly to Paris for a climate change conference. He has not made that decision whether he is going to go or not. There are also growing calls to appoint an independent prosecutor to investigate whether or not there was a cover-up in the mayor's office. Live at the police headquarters, Sarah Schulte, ABC7 Eyewitness News. Alan, back to you.
All right, Sarah.
When you have sinus pressure and congestion, you feel blocked, stuffed up. But Sudafed gives you maximum strength sinus pressure and congestion relief, so you feel free. Powerful sinus relief. Sudafed. Open up.
Superintendent McCarthy knows that a police officer is only as effective as when he has the trust of those he serves. After this weekend, after effectively handling both the protests that followed the release of the McDonald video last week and the arrest of Tashawn's killers, Superintendent McCarthy and I began a discussion on Sunday about the direction of the department and the undeniable fact that the public trust in the leadership of the department has been shaken and eroded. This morning, I formally asked for his resignation.
When you don't get enough sleep and your body aches, you're not yourself. Tylenol PM relieves pain and helps you fall fast asleep and stay asleep. We give you a better night. You're a better you all day. Tylenol.
We are learning more this morning about the Chicago Police Department's new task force on police accountability. It comes after demands for change after the shooting of Laquan McDonald. The teenager was shot 16 times by Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke.
Chicago Police Superintendent Garry McCarthy is here. It's good to have you this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We will talk about those numbers in just a bit. First, let's talk about Laquan McDonald. And you saw that videotape not long after that incident last October. Based on what you've seen and what you know about this case, should Officer Van Dyke have been charged with first-degree murder?
Well, I'm not going to speak to that because I'm not privy to the investigation.
Right.
And this is something that I think is really important to realize. People across the country have clamored for civilian oversight of police departments and other agencies to investigate our shootings. Here in Chicago, we have both. And then on top of it, we actually have the United States Attorney is conducting this investigation with the FBI.
So it's an investigation.
I'm not involved.
That's ongoing right now. Not asking you to comment on that, but this is an officer that is under your leadership. This is something that has already transpired. We know he's been charged with first-degree murder. Do you agree or disagree with the move?
I can't speak to it because I don't know the intimacies of the investigation. That's what I really need you to understand. The only thing that I could do in this particular case, under the law, is to strip him of his police powers. Now, the grand jury is secret. Anything that I'm learning about it, quite frankly, I'm learning from you guys. I'm learning it from the press because it has to be open source.
Okay, Superintendent, let's talk about your leadership and your future and your job. As you know, there are growing calls for you to resign. The Sun-Times just came out with their editorial this morning. I'm going to show everybody if you can see it. That's the headline right there. Chicago Police Superintendent Garry McCarthy has lost the trust and support of much of Chicago, without which he cannot do his job. In fact, they went on to say that if you don't resign, that the mayor should go ahead and fire you. What is your reaction to that? Should you resign? Will you resign?
Well, no, I'm not going to resign. I'm not going to give up on the city. I'm not going to give up on the good people of Chicago, and I'm certainly not going to give up on the Chicago Police Department. There's been enormous change over the last 4.5 years, and this is all being lost. And we gave you all the figures last night. In the last 4 years, people are talking about cultural change in the Chicago Police Department. We've got almost half the number of complaints from civilians this year compared to last year. Police-related shootings over the last 4 years are down almost 70% based on policy changes, supervision, and other things that we're doing, training, for instance. Those are things that I'm in control of. And the last thing, just talking about cultural change, think about the way that the protests have been handled here in Chicago versus other places. We've got officers getting punched, we've got them getting spit on, we've got objects being thrown at them, and how many arrests? Maybe 12?
But the question is, can you continue to effectively lead, though, the department if you don't have the confidence of the community?
I believe absolutely that there is a very large sector of the community who supports me. I hear it all day long, every single day. Honestly, every place I go, people are saying things like, stay strong, stay tough, we've got your back. At the end of the day, we can peel this away. We've got to sit down, we've got to get the facts out, right? Because there's a lot of facts that are being lost. There's a lot of things that are being presented as facts and are not factual. For instance, what I can and can't do. And that's why the mayor's task force that he's putting together is brilliant, because it's an issue that I identified 3.5 years ago, that I have accountability, quite obviously, but I don't have authority. And without authority, you can't, in fact, get things done the way that you need to get them done.
You just mentioned accountability. Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. And it goes back to the numbers, and I want to start with Officer Van Dyke. At least 18 citizen complaints were filed against him over his 14 years at the department. 8 of those alleged excessive force, and that's according to a database. He was never disciplined. That new University of Chicago database also shows that out of more than 56,000 complaints against officers over a 12-year period, less than 3% of officers were ever disciplined.
And we also do have new information released from CPD overnight saying citizen complaints against police are dropping. What is your reaction to all of that? Is there an accountability problem? What do you want the public to know?
Well, I want the public to know that I think it's the last 7 complaints against Van Dyke were not investigated by the Chicago Police Department. They were investigated by the outside agency that the community is clamoring for, and that's IPRA. So our authority in investigating those complaints is not very strong.
You just mentioned this new task force that the mayor is going to talk about a little bit later on this morning. What do you know about it?
I know the members comprising it. It's a diverse group of experts. I'll actually call them experts, including folks like Hiram Grau, who's a former superintendent here, a deputy superintendent who went on to run the Illinois State Police, and a number of other individuals who are going to have a great expertise to bring to the table. And it's something that I absolutely endorse. This needs to be done because this system is not producing the results that people want. They want outside entities to investigate. They want the United States Attorney to investigate. And what happened? Those investigations are underway, but now it took too long. A federal investigation takes a long time.
And Superintendent, before you go, we do want to touch on the November numbers. We looked at it briefly. What would you like people to know about these?
Well, it's less about the crime numbers and more about that complaint data and the fact that police-related shootings are down so dramatically based on the things we've done. At the end of the day, I can dictate the policy, the training, and the supervision. But that decision ends up being in the eyes of the officer, and Officer Van Dyke is going to have to account for his actions.
So you think you're doing a good job with the department?
I'm doing the best job I can do, let's put it that way.
And you are not resigning.
No.
Got it. All right. Superintendent Garry McCarthy on the broadcast this morning. It's good to have you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Great to
thanks
see
for
you
joining
guys.
us.
Thank you.
6:50.